Hey everyone, I'm Doug from Convology, and in this video I'm going to show you a neat tutorial for how you can create some really nice looking column cards, kind of layout style type things that you can use to really enhance the look of a page. The purpose of this tutorial is really just to show you some really cool effects with the hover state that you can do in Thrive Architect. So I put together a little demo here. Imagine this were being used on a vacation site or a property rental site. But anyway, you have the three columns here, and when you hover over them, for example, you get this effect. Hover over this one, it goes grayscale, and hover over this one, and it changes colors. Now, what's really cool about this as I jump over into Thrive Architect here, what's really cool is a couple of things. One, I want to note here as I'm hovering over the outer content box, yet the inner content box is changing colors. And with this one, I'm hovering anywhere within the outer content box rather, and the image goes grayscale. And on this one, no matter where I hover, everything gets that hue to it, that change in color. So let's take a look real quick at how we accomplish this and how we might make some really cool column card layouts ourselves. So I've got a background section here, and I'm going to mimic what I've built up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is add in a column section, and let's go with our 3-column layout. Now, if you watch any of my videos, if you've taken my courses, you know that I love content boxes. So the very first thing I do in my columns is I add a content box. So with our first content box here, let's click the lock to basically help us remove everything, and then we'll just put 25 in the top. Oops, I put that on the margin. Let's put that on the padding. Let's go 0 and 25. Now we've got our first content box all set. Now I want to add another content box inside of this content box. So I'm going to drag in another content box, and I'm going to drop it right below my text. Now when I click on this interior content box and I go to my breadcrumbs, you'll see that the text is in a content box, which is in a content box, which is in our column. Perfect, that's exactly what we want. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an image right below the content box itself. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to choose image and drop it below the inner content box. Perfect. And let's drop in the same one here. I believe that's San Diego. We'll insert that. All right, that's starting to take shape. So now let's go ahead and let's actually add a background color to our background section here so that we can kind of see what we're doing. So in this background section, nice little gray color here. Now go into the very first content box, or the outer content box, and let's make that background white. Now you can see kind of how it's starting to take shape. So I want this image to go all the way against the edge of our seemingly exterior container. So first thing I need to do is make sure that I've removed at least all of the bottom margin, and I'm going to remove the top margin as well. Now what I want to do is I want to get rid of this text up here. We don't need it inside of that content box. So I want to add in an icon. And I'm going to put this icon above the text because this text is holding our place inside of our inner content box. Now I'm going to find a picture of a hotel or maybe a building, something that might represent what I want to build. That's good enough. We'll choose that one. Click select. Great. And for this particular design, we went with size 60, kept it 60. Perfect. Now we need to do a couple of things. I really like this outer border that I did on the inner content box. I think it kind of sets it apart. It makes it look like I have a container in a container, and it's a little bit artistic here is over the image. In general, it's just a neat design that I like. So let's go ahead and replicate that. So I'm going to take this inner content box and I'm going to give it a border in a corner, and I'm going to give it a 2. 2 border looks good. Now I want to start to give my inner content box a little bit of that border. So in this particular example, I'm giving this inner content box about 20 margin on the top right and left. And because I want it to now go down on top of the image, let's give it a negative margin, meaning it's going to go downward of about 100. And that looks good to me. Now, we want our icon here to be kind of intersecting the line above it. So instead of having a 20 margin on the top, we're going to actually reduce that down probably to about 45 or 46 or so. That's kind of where I typically find is towards the center of an icon. And that looks pretty good to me. Now we need to add in some text, and just to save myself some time, I'm going to duplicate the text above, and I'm going to drop it in, and I'm duplicate this text above as well, and drop that in too. And now that's starting to take some shape. Now the next thing we need to add to mimic our design here is a button. So I'm going to search for a button, and I'm going to drop that in below my text. There we go. And we need to make that much smaller. So by default, it's inheriting my Smart Landing Page colors, and I want to change that so that it is black, and I want to remove the rounded edges. Now I could go to my button templates and I could do it here, or I could change the borders and corners. Let's go ahead and just do that. Let's just make it removed there. Come in here, maybe unbold the text, change it to say learn more. We can change the font size, something much smaller, maybe a 12, maybe 14, whatever looks good to us. And with the button, I probably want to make it small, and that looks good to me, whatever fits your style. Now, one thing we want to do with our button is we want to drag it so that the margin, again, is negative enough that it looks like it's hanging on top of the image like this example. So let's go to Layout and Position, and let's give that a negative margin until, well, you know what? 0 might actually work perfectly because we gave our container a negative margin. Now, you'll notice something. In my example, my artsy looking lines overlay on top of my image, but here it looks like they're behind. If you like that, cool. But if you want yours to go on top, you need to select the content box itself, and under Layout and Position, go to Advanced Options and change that to high z-index, something like 99. And now we still have our text we need to remove there. There we go. Now we need to adjust this so that it's not quite as negative, maybe negative 45 or so. So now we need to give our inner content box a little more padding on the bottom. I think I made it like 128, and then that's where this negative 100 came in. Either way, however you end up wanting to do it, you just need to adjust the negative margins on these so that the buttons line up nicely. There you go. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now we've built our really neat looking box, or card, or whatever you want to call it. I think designers call these cards. Couple more little tweaks that I want to do to make this look just right. I want to give it a little bit of a border on the outside. So I'm going to go to this external content box and go to, let's go to borders and corners. Let's give it a 1 pixel border, and I want to make it just a nice gray color. So that looks nice. Something that just subtly pops it off the page. It may not even translate over this video, but to me that just looks really nice. Gives a little bit of border. All right. So the first card is done. I'm not going to build all the rest of the cards. You've seen how I built the first one. Let's go ahead and learn how to do those cool hover effects. So the first thing I want you to do is go to the outer content box and go to the breadcrumbs and make sure you're in the outer content box. This is where we're going to apply all of our hover effects. So the first thing you'll do is in the upper left-hand corner here of the content box, you'll see the state. We want to change that to the hover state. So now, whenever we hover anywhere in the outer content box or over anything in it, we're going to get this effect. So I could do a lot. I could come in here and say that I want to apply a background style, but since we're hovering over the outer content box, it's going to give us a background style to the outer content box. And maybe that looks good for you, but I don't want that effect. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my mouse over the inner content box. I'm going to click on it. Note that I'm still in the hover state, but I'm in the hover state for this box as it pertains to when we hover on the outer box. So let's apply a background color here. Maybe we want to make it that really light gray. That in and of itself looks nice, but maybe we want to make it a little more transparent so that it can still show the background image. That looks nice. And to maybe show the same effect that I did on the second card, I can click on the image while still in the hover state, and and I can go to image effects and I can make it fully grayscale. Now we're really getting artsy with our lines overlaying and our images going grayscale. That's really cool. But let's take it one step further and apply one of the other things we saw from the third card. And that's, let's go back into the inner content box, go to borders and corners, and let's change the color of the border when we're hovering over it and the icon. So we're just kind of doing all of them here at once. There we go. Maybe we'll even change the button on this one too. So again, I just chose my button, I chose my color, and now I want to go out of the hover state by clicking state, normal. Now, whenever I hover over the content box, I'm going to barely move my mouse in. Boom, there we go. Grayscale image, orange button, orange border, orange building hotel thing, gray background on the inner content box. How cool is that? That right there. And again, that button also retains its own hover properties. How cool is that? So you can make some really cool cards for your website in Thrive Architect using the hover state and getting creative with overlapping your content boxes within images and things like that. So if you enjoyed this tutorial and you want to learn how to do other cool things just like it, I have actually just launched a brand new course called Thrive Architect Ultimate Essentials, where I not only show you how to use all of these elements, but I show you how to make really cool things just like this so that you can make your website even more impressive. If you're interested in that, head over to convology.com/courses and you'll be taken right to it. All right, guys, that'll do it for this video. Create some really cool stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.